I say that very mindful of the need for the United States not to always be pointing fingers and lecturing, and to be somewhat introspective as we think about these things. And in some ways we can do better ourselves in a number of different ways. But nevertheless, human rights are in our DNA, and we will always be a nation that stands up and fights for people's human rights.
Sergei Magnitsky, a young lawyer who was tortured and killed by Russian authorities after he recently been told about corruption within Russia, but to have a legacy of advancing international human rights, that those who are involved in gross human rights violations should not have the privilege to visit our country or to use our banking system, which in many cases is where they want to put their illegal gains in our banking system and properties in our country. So that is the purpose, but the main purpose is to have countries take action under their own, that they should hold those who violate these standards accountable under their own laws.
In terms of this additional information that you think has to be provided in the classified annex, I'm just wondering whether that's not putting at risk classified information in a context where it may not be necessary, where it doesn't add that much more to the outcome. And I worry particularly just that it requires so much more detail in a classified form that it's going to be available to a broader group of readers, and therefore, given our recent experience with a lot of classified information, I'm just not that comfortable.
It is our preference that those that are denied the opportunity to visit because of gross human rights violations, that their names will be published because of name and shame, that it has worked well in human rights issues historically, and we think that's the preferred route to do. Go. The administration raised some legitimate questions with this bill originally as to how they would exercise a national security waiver if they felt the release of the name caused a national security problem. We thought they could issue the waiver as it was originally drafted, but there was some concern about that. So we went back to the co-sponsors and we allowed them to, the administration, to file a classified annex, because we thought that's the proper way to protect the identity of a person who they believe should be banned from coming to this country. But for national security reasons, they cannot list the name. They get informant issues.
In favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it unanimously, and the bill will be recorded, and you and I will continue, sir.
Absolutely.
To work on that. Thank you, everybody.
Sergei Magnitsky then discovered a crime which, combined with newly discovered travel records, proves a collaboration between Interior Ministry officers and organized criminals. In December of 2004, Dmitry Kluyev and his lawyer Andrei Pavlov attempted to steal $1.6 billion worth of shares in the Mikhailovsky Gawk.
A criminal case was launched against the Kluyev crime group. The investigation into the crime was headed by Interior Ministry.
Corrupt officials to be held accountable and punished for their crimes. I believe the Russian people agree with us that corrupt officials who steal money from the citizens and government of Russia should not be able to hide it in U.S. banks or use it to finance shopping trips and vacations in the United States. Vladimir Putin assured his continued rule in Russia for at least 12 years. Unless the Russian people decide differently through other means, was whether he would be more cooperative with the West or whether he would become more hardline. And I think the answer is pretty well clear, that in his statements about missile defense, continued vetoing of any resolution on Syria, one of his military leaders said that if the United States continues our missile defense efforts, which are clearly defensive, that this could lead to military confrontation. I've watched a number of meetings between world leaders, but I doubt if I'd seen anyone quite like the body language that existed between Putin and our president in that meeting. It was remarkable. Both of them had to look on their faces like they'd rather be anywhere else than in that room. So, and why he's doing all that, whether it goes back to his origins as a KGB colonel or whether it goes back to concerns about internal dissent within Russia, the demonstrations, but this story is one that needs to be told around the world. It needs to be told because the courage and dedication of one person, Sergei Magnitsky, should be an example and a motivation to all of us. Obviously, he exposed the pervasive corruption that sadly exists within the government, including, as we've just seen, the largest public theft in Russian history. His work and Bill's relentless efforts to draw attention to it has also now brought to light the connection between Russian officials and the dangerous transnational criminal organization known as the Kluyev Group. By the way, I take it that real estate in Dubai is pretty expensive, and I don't think I'm going to be able to invest there. But with officials of the Russian Federation to engage in bribery, embezzlement, fraud, commit company thefts, and possibly numerous murders. I take it that heart disease is a growing problem in Russia today. Furthermore, you know, the laundering mechanism, use of similar money laundering mechanism used by Mexican drug smugglers and North Korean and Iranian weapons traffickers. The information that Sergei uncovered suggests that the U.S. financial system may have even been compromised and abused by this criminal organization.